You finally quit gambling. The worst of the addiction is now behind you, but now you're staring at the bank account that's running on fumes. The massive credit card statements, the loans, and all the missed bills. The addiction might be done causing damage, but the financial mess feels overwhelming to say the least. In fact, for a lot of people, this part feels even harder than quitting gambling itself. Today, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how to approach your finances after quitting gambling. It's based on my own experience in early recovery from my own gambling addiction, as well as everything I've learned over the years since in my effort to help you try to avoid making the same mistakes that I did. This is not going to be formal financial advice. It's all my own opinion and understanding based on what worked for me. If you're in debt, if you're scared, if you feel like you'll never recover financially, you're not alone, and things will get better. Let's break it down step by step. Before we get into the super tactical stuff, we need to talk about the emotional side of all of this. When we gamble compulsively, we're not just losing money, we're losing time, relationships, trust, peace of mind, and eventually, we lose trust in ourselves. That guilt hits hard, and the shame kicks in. The voice in your head says something like, how could I let this get this bad? How am I ever gonna dig myself out of this? I want you to hear me clearly. The debt is a symptom of your addiction. It's not who you are. And beating yourself up over it right now isn't going to make it go away. It's actually only going to compound how much you're struggling and make the whole situation that much harder. When I was staring at a mountain of debt the day that I stopped gambling, I had a thought that really helped me to reframe the situation in a much more productive way. The amount of money that I owed, the amount of money that I lost spinning slots, making parlays, desperately chasing after that big win that I thought was gonna change everything, that was the amount that I had to lose, to learn that it was only ever going to get worse if I kept gambling. I viewed it less as a mistake and more as a tuition payment. I took solace in knowing that if I kept on going, if I kept on trying to win my way out, that I'd eventually end up making it into a much worse situation. I already proved that to myself many times. Financial recovery isn't about being perfect or fixing everything overnight. It's about building safety, stability, and starting to stack small wins one day at a time. Change your perspective and please stop kicking yourself for the losses. Now let's get to work. Your first priority is not paying everything off instantly. Your first priority is stabilizing your basic necessities: food, shelter, utilities, transportation. If you're behind on rent or bills, you need to call those companies directly. Many landlords, utility companies, and even service providers would much rather work with you than lose a customer entirely. Because let's face it, getting even half of the value owed instead of 0% is always going to be a better deal for them. Of course, that's not what they want, but you'd be shocked at how many people will work with you to establish a payment plan or work out some kind of compromise so that they can get something out of the deal instead of you bankrupting out and then, leaving them high and dry. Gambling addiction is real, and many people are starting to realize that. They will work with you. Don't make the same mistake many recovering gamblers make, which is trying to pay off a mountain of debt before securing your basic needs, because then you're going to create an insecurity that can serve as a motivation to go get one more hit and try to get some breathing room. I fought this temptation year after year as I tried quitting gambling, and it only ended up creating excuses to relapse instead of actually helping me. You need a stable foundation, emotionally, physically, and of course financially, before you can start attacking debt aggressively. And absolutely, this goes without saying, avoid any high-risk, quick fixes like payday loans, cash advances, or high-interest debt to try to solve the problem faster. Those solutions almost always make things worse. You might think it's a good idea to get a few $100 extra with a loan to get some breathing room until you realize that you borrowed it at 250% and you're gonna end up owing 3 times more just because you wanted that immediate feeling of relief. If something feels like it'll solve the problem immediately, it is 100% too good to be true. This is a process, not something that happens in one day. Now, let's talk about your debts. When you're finally stable, you can start sorting through what you actually owe. Here's a simple way to think about it. Priority number 1 is going to be high interest debts like credit cards, payday loans, and personal loans. Priority number 2 are secured debts like car loans, mortgage, because these are all tied to assets that you need. Priority number 3, low interest or flexible debts, some student loans, payment plans, these kinds of things. But there is also one exception here that people like Dave Ramsey and Caleb Hammer will cite, as what needs to 100% get paid off first is any debt owed to the IRS. As scary as a loan shark might be, Uncle Sam is a way bigger priority here. Paying off your debt in this order will allow you to tackle the highest interest rates first that are eating into your budget and reducing the amount that you can put towards other debts. We want the pressure to gradually ease over time, and writing out all of your debts and understanding where to focus your time and effort in repayment is a major key to getting out of debt, but also to easing the stress that you might be feeling. If you know what needs to be paid and when it needs to happen by and how it's going to happen, you can strategize instead of relying on a big gambling win to try to fix all your problems, which, by the way, is the exact thinking that got us to this point to begin with. If you feel overwhelmed, consider working with a nonprofit credit counselor, a debt management program, or even a financial advisor who understands addiction recovery. There's actually a group that I work with called GAMFIN that's available for a lot of states in the United States for free, where they specifically focus on helping people in recovery from gambling addiction to budget, plan out debt repayment, and actually begin to rebuild their lives. Check them out in the description of this video and see if you're in one of those jurisdictions where they can help you out for free. Sometimes people ask, should I file for bankruptcy? And the honest answer is, it depends. For some, bankruptcy may be a clean slate. For others, it may not be necessary, and in fact, only end up making things worse long term, as your credit gets nuked, and it doesn't really change any of the patterns of behavior that were underlying the problem. But always talk to a professional who can review your full financial picture before making that decision. And I want you to leave remembering that debt doesn't define you, but ignoring it is only going to keep you stuck. Before I talk about what I think was one of the most pivotal steps in my own recovery, I do have one thing that I want to ask from you. I come online and share the darkest parts of my life because I want to see you and those you love avoid going down the same path that I did. The only thing that I need from you to continue doing this work is for you to hit that subscribe button. And my promise to you in return is that I'm not going to stop until I've helped as many people as I possibly can to find recovery from this addiction. Now, here's a step that most people skip, but it was so important for me. Setting up financial guardrails to protect your recovery. Gambling addiction is really sneaky. If you suddenly come into some extra money with a tax return, a bonus, or a gift, that can trigger those old patterns really fast. Here's what you can do to prevent relapse. Establish financial accountability. Let a trusted person, spouse, parent, sibling, sponsor, whoever, help oversee your finances for a while. My mom managed my bank account when I was 24 years old. Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my application to Sexiest Man Alive for sure. But all jokes aside, it honestly didn't impact my life too much at all. I carried the cash that I needed for weekly expenses, and the only thing that was actually different in my life is that I couldn't set my life on fire by making a sporadic casino deposit in the middle of the night when I'd get tempted or feel bored or lonely. Another thing to do is access blocks. Use apps and services like Gamban or bank level blocks to make gambling access harder. It'll never be impossible for you to gamble. That's the reality. But making it more difficult might help you in a moment of weakness, because it'll slow you down and actually get you to think about what you're doing. The rest can be stored in accounts that you can't easily touch, or that require joint permission, or even go directly into repaying those debts that we laid out earlier. The goal here isn't to babysit yourself forever. It's to give yourself breathing room to focus on your recovery, not the temptation. Your brain heals over time, and those temptations begin to fade, but you need to give yourself the space to let that happen. Here's the hardest part for many recovering gamblers: learning to see money differently. For years, money was fuel for the addiction. It represented risk or escape, and in my experience, it really just served as the scoreboard, either confirming how good of a gambler I thought I was, or how much I needed to win back to get myself to that status again. We didn't view money as security. We viewed it as our ammunition. Now, money has to become something else for us. A tool for stability, a tool for peace, a tool for building a life, not chasing cheap dopamine. You might struggle with thoughts like, I need to make it all back right now. That thinking is really dangerous. That's gambling thinking. Recovery is not about making it back. Recovery is about not losing more. You win by staying clean. You win by building safety. I still struggle with overthinking about money to this day, but what I've realized is that if we make our entire life dependent on how we feel about our finances, we miss out on so many things that matter, and we set ourselves up to constantly feel like we're not enough. Money is an important tool to creating a stable life, but if it's all that we focus on, we don't really have a life at all. I know how heavy this feels because I've been there. I've sat with the bank statements, the balances of debt, the sleepless nights, and I can tell you, it does get better. You can recover financially. It will not be fast and it won't be easy, and really it won't be much fun. But if you stay clean, stay consistent, and stay connected, you're gonna get out of this hole. Your debt doesn't define your future. In an older video I did, I spoke with a financial counselor from GamFin about how to properly manage your money in recovery from a gambling addiction. Check that one out next to dive just a little bit deeper on finances after gambling, and let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.